The Kethtar Empire was the nightmare that haunted every peaceful world in the galaxy's outer rim. For thousands of years, these alien predators had terrorized entire star systems with their deadly hunting skills. They were not just warriors. They were born killers, shaped by evolution into the perfect killing machines. Picture creatures that stood 8 feet tall, covered in thick black scales that could deflect most energy weapons. Their hands ended in razor-sharp claws that could slice through steel like butter. But what made them truly terrifying was not their physical strength. It was their intelligence. The Kethtar hunted in coordinated packs, using tactics that had been perfected over millennia of conquest. Admiral Vextar was the most feared hunter in the entire empire. His massive warship, the Blood Talon, led a fleet of over 300 vessels. Each ship was filled with hungry warriors, eager for their next hunt. Vextar had never lost a battle, never failed to bring down his prey. Under his command, entire civilizations had fallen within days. The Kethtar did not fight wars like other species. They hunted. They would surround a planet, cut off all escape routes, and then descend like a pack of wolves. They took what they wanted: resources, technology, slaves, and left nothing but empty worlds behind. Other alien species whispered their name in terror. Parents told stories of the Kethtar to frighten children into behaving. What made them so successful was their hunting philosophy. They never attacked anything stronger than themselves. They were smart predators who chose easy targets. They would study a world for months, learning its weaknesses before striking at the perfect moment. They always picked fights they knew they could win. When their long-range scouts detected signals from a small blue planet in an unremarkable solar system, it seemed like just another routine hunt. The planet's inhabitants had barely begun to explore their own star system. Their technology was primitive, their weapons basic. They had no unified government, no coordinated defense systems. They were divided into hundreds of small nations that constantly fought among themselves. Perfect prey, Vextar thought as he studied the reports. These humans, as they called themselves, would provide excellent sport for his warriors. Their world was rich in resources that the Empire needed. Their population was large enough to provide thousands of slaves for the mines and factories. Best of all, they seemed completely unaware that predators were watching them from the darkness of space. Vextar gathered his pack leaders in the command chamber of his flagship. The holographic display showed the blue planet rotating slowly, completely, defenseless. His warriors growled with anticipation, their claws clicking against the metal floor. They had been traveling for months without a proper hunt, and they were hungry for action. This would be easy, Vextar decided, just another weak species to add to their collection of conquered worlds. He had no idea that he was about to face something that would change everything the Kethtar thought they knew about hunting and being hunted. Captain Kim Minho was conducting a routine patrol mission near Jupiter when everything changed forever. The Endeavour was one of Earth's newest exploration ships, designed to map the outer solar system and search for signs of alien life. For months, they had found nothing but empty space and silent moons. That was about to change in the most terrifying way possible. Lee Sujin was monitoring the communications array when her screen suddenly lit up with unknown signals. The patterns were unlike anything in Earth's databases, clearly artificial but completely alien. Her heart raced as she realized they had just detected humanity's first contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. "Captain, you need to see this," Sujin called out, her voice trembling with excitement and fear. The bridge crew gathered around her station as strange symbols scrolled across the displays. These were not random signals from space. This was a deliberate transmission from something intelligent. Captain Minho made the decision that would define humanity's future. Following Earth's first contact protocols, he ordered Sujin to respond with peaceful mathematical sequences and basic pictographs. They transmitted images showing Earth, humans, and symbols of peace. The crew held their breath, waiting for a response that would prove they were not alone in the universe. What came back was not what they expected. The alien response was immediate and aggressive. Weapon signatures appeared on their sensors as 3 massive ships decloaked near Jupiter's moons. These vessels were unlike anything humans had ever imagined. dark, predatory shapes that seemed designed for hunting rather than exploration. The Kethtar ships moved with deadly precision, surrounding the Endeavour in a classic hunting formation. Captain Minho realized with growing horror that these aliens had not come to talk. They had come to hunt. The first shots fired were warning blasts, designed to disable rather than destroy. The aliens wanted them alive, but Captain Minho was a former military officer who had served in Earth's colonial wars. He understood predator behavior, and he knew that showing weakness would mean death for his crew. Instead of surrendering or fleeing, he ordered his ship to fight back with everything they had. The Endeavour was not a warship, but it carried defensive weapons and a crew trained in combat procedures. They fired back at the alien vessels, targeting their weapon systems with surgical precision. The Kethtar scouts were shocked. Their prey was fighting back with organized resistance instead of panicking. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the Kethtar encountered something they had never seen before. Every other species they had hunted either fled in terror or surrendered immediately when faced with superior force. But these humans coordinated their attacks, covered each other's weaknesses, and fought with a tactical intelligence that impressed even the alien hunters. The battle lasted only minutes, but it sent shockwaves through both species. The Endeavour was eventually overwhelmed and boarded, but not before inflicting significant damage on one of the Kethtar ships. As the surviving crew members were taken prisoner, the aliens studied them with growing confusion and respect. These humans were not like other prey species. They were something new, something dangerous. The Kethtar had just encountered Earth's greatest weapon, not advanced technology or superior firepower, but the human refusal to give up without a fight. Admiral Vextar was confident this would be the easiest hunt of his career. The reports from his scouts confirmed what he already believed. Humans were just another weak species ready for harvesting. He assembled the largest invasion fleet the Kethtar had ever deployed, over 500 warships, bristling with weapons that had conquered dozens of worlds. The alien fleet emerged from hyperspace near Mars like a dark storm cloud, blotting out the stars. Each Kethtar vessel was a masterpiece of predatory design, built for maximum intimidation and killing efficiency. Their hulls were covered in spikes and razor edges that served no practical purpose except to strike fear into their enemies, but Earth was not defenseless. Admiral Park Ji-hoon commanded humanity's combined space defense forces from the orbital station Defiance. When the alien fleet appeared on his screens, he knew this was the moment humanity had been preparing for since they first reached the stars. Every science fiction movie, every military simulation, every nightmare about alien invasion had led to this moment. The battle began near Mars with a thunderous exchange of energy weapons that lit up the darkness of space. The Kethtar expected their superior firepower to crush human resistance within hours. Their plasma cannons could melt through the strongest metals, and their ships were protected by shields that had never been penetrated. At first, everything went according to their plan. Human ships exploded in brilliant flashes as alien weapons found their targets. The Kethtar warriors howled with joy as they watched their prey burn. But then something unexpected happened that made Admiral Vextar pause and study his tactical displays more carefully. The humans were not breaking. Every military handbook in the galaxy said that inferior forces should retreat when faced with overwhelming firepower. But these humans kept fighting even when their ships were crippled and their crews were dying. They coordinated their attacks with precision that impressed even the experienced Kethtar commanders. Human pilots flew their damaged fighters directly into alien ships, sacrificing themselves to save their comrades. Wounded vessels continued firing until their power cores failed. When human ships ran out of ammunition, they rammed enemy vessels rather than surrender. This was not the behavior of prey animals. This was the fury of cornered predators. The battle raged for 3 days around Mars, with both sides suffering heavy losses. The Kethtar were winning, but not as easily as they had expected. These humans fought with desperate creativity, using tactics that no civilized species would consider. They turned cargo ships into bombs, used ice asteroids as weapons, and coordinated attacks across impossible distances. On Earth, Emergency alarms echoed through government bunkers buried deep underground. President Lee Ji-won activated protocols that had been secret for decades. Hidden facilities across the planet began powering up systems that had been dormant since humanity's most violent periods. Scientists who had spent their careers working on projects too dangerous to discuss received urgent activation codes. The Kethtar had awakened something they did not understand. They thought they were hunting simple prey, but they had actually challenged a species that had spent its entire evolutionary history as both predator and prey. Earth was about to show them what happens when humans stop pretending to be civilized. Deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, Dr. Choi Minji had been waiting for this moment her entire career. The Biological Enhancement Project had been humanity's most classified secret, hidden from the public and most government officials. For 20 years, she had worked with a team of the world's best scientists to create something that had never existed before, the perfect fusion of nature's deadliest predators with human technology. When the emergency activation codes arrived, Minji knew that Earth's survival depended on creatures that most people believed were just science fiction. The underground facility hummed to life as massive containment doors began opening for the first time since the project began. What emerged would change the nature of warfare forever. The first pack consisted of wolves unlike anything that had ever roamed Earth's forests. These magnificent creatures had been enhanced with titanium-reinforced teeth that could bite through steel. Their muscles had been genetically modified to be 3 times stronger than natural wolves. Most importantly, their intelligence had been boosted to near-human levels, allowing them to understand complex battle commands and work together in ways that would make military strategists proud. But the wolves were just the beginning. Cyber-augmented dogs bounded alongside them, their bodies enhanced with synthetic fibers that made them faster and stronger than any natural canine. These weren't pets turned into weapons. They were willing partners who understood exactly what they were fighting for. Their enhanced senses could detect alien technology from miles away, and their loyalty to humanity was absolute. The Kethtar ground forces had landed expecting to face human soldiers with primitive weapons. Instead, they found themselves stalked through Earth's cities by predators that seemed to appear from nowhere. A pack of enhanced wolves could take down an entire alien patrol before the Kethtar even knew they were being hunted. The aliens' superior technology meant nothing when titanium fangs tore through their armor like paper. From the skies came creatures that turned the aliens' worst nightmares into reality. Giant eagles with razor-sharp metallic wings dove from the clouds, their enhanced vision allowing them to spot alien soldiers from impossible distances. These magnificent birds had been given synthetic feathers edged with microscopic blades that could slice through alien equipment. When they struck, it was like being hit by a flying sword. The big cats were perhaps the most terrifying of all. Enhanced tigers and lions moved through urban environments with supernatural grace, their genetically modified muscles allowing them to leap between buildings. Their claws had been reinforced with the same materials used in spacecraft hulls. When they pounced on alien soldiers, the outcome was swift and decisive. For the first time in their species' long history of conquest, the Kethtar found themselves being hunted rather than hunting. Their advanced sensors detected the approaching predators, but their technology couldn't predict the creative intelligence these creatures displayed. The enhanced animals worked together in ways that confused and terrified the alien invaders. The psychological impact was devastating. Kethtar warriors who had never known fear began to understand what their countless victims had felt. They were no longer the apex predators of the galaxy. They had become prey to Earth's perfected killing machines. The battle for Earth's major cities was not going well for humanity. Despite the success of the enhanced predators, the Kethtar were adapting quickly. Their superior numbers and advanced weapons were slowly overwhelming human defenses. New York, London, and Tokyo had fallen to alien occupation forces. It was time for Earth scientists to unleash weapons so dangerous that they had hoped never to use them. In secret laboratories buried beneath major cities, containment protocols were being overridden for the first time. Dr. Park Sun-ho watched nervously as automated systems began releasing billions of creatures that had been created in the darkest corners of biological warfare research. These were not large predators that could be easily spotted and avoided. These were the small horrors that could be everywhere and nowhere at once. The first wave came as clouds of darkness that seemed to move against the wind. Bioengineered insects poured from hidden vents across every major city, each one carrying toxins specifically designed to target Kethtar biology. These weren't random swarms. They were coordinated armies with a hive intelligence that could adapt to changing battlefield conditions in real time. The modified mosquitoes were nearly invisible to alien sensors, but their bite delivered neurotoxins that could paralyze a Kethtar warrior within seconds. Enhanced wasps worked in perfect coordination, swarming alien positions and injecting venom that caused excruciating pain without immediate death. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy they couldn't see until it was too late. But the real nightmare began when the modified ants emerged from their underground colonies. These creatures had been given diamond-hard mandibles that could cut through materials stronger than steel. They worked together in massive, coordinated attacks, swarming over Kethtar vehicles and equipment. Within minutes, they could reduce an alien tank to scrap metal, cutting through armor plating like it was made of cardboard. The ants operated with terrifying efficiency. They would surround isolated alien soldiers and begin cutting through their armor piece by piece. The Kethtars. Advanced weapons were useless against millions of tiny attackers that moved too fast to target effectively. What made it worse was the ants' intelligence. They learned from each encounter, developing new tactics to overcome alien defenses. Then came the honey badgers, and even hardened military observers had to look away. These creatures had been enhanced. Beyond all recognition, their natural fearlessness amplified to supernatural levels. They felt no pain, acknowledged no wounds, and never retreated from any fight. When a honey badger decided to attack a Kethtar position, nothing could stop it except complete destruction. The enhanced honey badgers would charge directly into alien gunfire, ignoring wounds that would kill most creatures instantly. They seemed to run on pure rage and determination, continuing their attacks even with severe injuries. Kethtar warriors watched in horror as these seemingly small creatures tore through their defensive lines with unstoppable fury. What terrified the aliens most was that these creatures felt no fear whatsoever. The Kethtar were accustomed to inspiring terror in their enemies, but these bioengineered horrors were driven only by programmed aggression and the drive to eliminate threats to their territory. They could not be intimidated, reasoned with, or scared away. The swarm had been released and Earth's cities became hunting grounds where the Kethtar learned what it meant to be truly afraid. The Kethtar had made a critical mistake in their invasion planning. Like most spacefaring civilizations, they focused on land-based threats and orbital defenses. They never considered that 70% of Earth's surface was covered by something far more dangerous than any continent, the deep oceans that humanity had turned into the ultimate weapon. Admiral Vexitar was reviewing battle reports when his sensors detected massive movement beneath the waves. At first, his technicians dismissed the readings as natural sea life migrating away from the coastal battles. They had no idea they were watching the approach of Earth's most terrifying predators, emerging from the depths. The first attack came without warning. A Kethtar landing craft approaching the California coast suddenly exploded in a fountain of seawater and metal fragments. The aliens had no time to understand what hit them before more explosions erupted across their formation. From the depths came creatures that defied everything the Kethtar thought they knew about planetary warfare. Enhanced great white sharks breached the surface like living missiles, their bodies modified with torpedo guidance systems and explosive payloads. These magnificent predators had volunteered for the enhancement program, their natural hunting instincts amplified by human technology. They moved through the water with impossible speed, their enhanced senses allowing them to track alien ships from miles away. But the sharks were just the beginning of the oceanic nightmare. Enhanced octopi had been waiting in underwater cities built specifically for this moment. These incredibly intelligent creatures coordinated attacks with a complexity that impressed even human military strategists. They could change color to match any environment, squeeze through spaces that seemed impossible, and manipulate multiple weapons simultaneously with their enhanced tentacles. The octopi had been given cybernetic implants that connected them to Earth's defense networks. They worked together like a single massive organism, sharing information instantly across vast distances. When Keith-Tar submarines tried to establish underwater bases, they found themselves facing ambush tactics so sophisticated that their best military minds couldn't counter them. What made the oceanic assault truly terrifying was the sheer diversity of enhanced sea life. Modified dolphins used their enhanced sonar to coordinate precision strikes against alien vessels. Giant enhanced crabs with reinforced claws climbed aboard enemy ships and began systematically destroying critical systems. Even the smaller creatures had been turned into weapons. Schools of enhanced barracuda could strip the armor from alien equipment in minutes. The horror reached its peak when Earth's government activated the Sleeper Agent Protocol. Across the planet, ordinary animals that had been living normal lives suddenly awakened to their true purpose. Every pet dog and cat, every zoo animal, every creature in every park and forest had been secretly enhanced with dormant capabilities that activated only in humanity's darkest hour. Family pets turned into perfect spies, gathering intelligence on alien positions and reporting back through hidden communication networks. Zoo animals broke free from their enclosures and began coordinated attacks on nearby alien forces. Wild animals emerged from forests and mountains, all united by a single program directive: protect Earth and eliminate the invaders. The Keith-Tar fleet found themselves under attack from directions they had never considered possible. Birds dove from the sky, sea creatures attacked from below, and land animals coordinated ground assaults. Every living thing on Earth had become a potential weapon in humanity's desperate fight for survival. The war had taken a turn that no Keith-Tar military strategist had ever imagined possible. What began as a simple hunting expedition had become a psychological nightmare that was breaking the minds of warriors who had conquered entire star systems. Admiral Vextar stood in his command center, watching reports flood in from across Earth, each one more disturbing than the last. His soldiers were no longer reporting enemy casualties or tactical victories. Instead, they sent desperate messages filled with words the Keith-Tar language had never needed before. Words for being stalked, hunted, and terrorized by creatures that seemed to know their every move before they made it. The enhanced ravens were perhaps the most unsettling of all Earth's weapons. These black-winged intelligence gatherers moved like shadows across the battlefield, their enhanced brains processing information faster than most military computers. They watched from power lines and building tops, memorizing patrol routes and communication patterns. Then they would dive with surgical precision, targeting weak points in alien armor that no other creature should have been able to identify. What made the ravens truly terrifying was their ability to communicate across impossible distances. Raven in Tokyo could instantly share tactical information with ravens in London, creating a global intelligence network that made every Keith-Tar movement predictable. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that always seemed one step ahead, always ready for their next attack. The enhanced wolves had evolved beyond simple pack hunting into something that challenged the Keith-Tar's understanding of warfare itself. These creatures used advanced communication systems that allowed them to coordinate attacks across entire continents. A wolf pack in North America could work seamlessly with packs in Europe and Asia, timing their strikes to create maximum psychological impact. The wolves had learned to use the aliens' own hunting instincts against them. They would leave false trails and fake evidence of their presence, drawing Keith-Tar patrols into carefully prepared ambushes. Sometimes they would attack and then deliberately retreat, leading their pursuers into areas where other enhanced creatures waited. The aliens began to realize they were not fighting individual animals. They were fighting a single massive intelligence that wore 1,000 different faces. Vextar's worst moment came when he received a report from one of his most experienced hunting commanders. The warrior's voice shook as he described being stalked through the ruins of Berlin by creatures that seemed to anticipate his every tactical decision. These were not random animal attacks. They were precisely coordinated military operations, conducted by beings that understood Kethtar psychology better than the Kethtar understood themselves. The enhanced creatures had been designed specifically to counter alien invasion tactics. Human scientists had studied every known Kethtar battle, analyzed their weaknesses, and created predators perfectly suited to exploit those vulnerabilities. The aliens discovered that humans had not just enhanced random animals, they had engineered the ultimate anti-Kethtar weapons. The psychological impact was devastating. Warriors who had spent their lives as apex predators found themselves jumping at shadows, afraid to venture outside their fortified positions. They reported seeing glowing eyes in the darkness, hearing coordinated howls that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Some Kethtar soldiers refused to leave their ships, paralyzed by the fear of becoming prey. Vextar realized with growing horror that the humans had achieved something no species had ever done before. They had turned the galaxy's greatest predators into frightened animals. Admiral Vextar had never experienced defeat before, but he could no longer deny what was happening to his once mighty invasion force. Half of his warriors were dead or missing, and the survivors were breaking down mentally. Under the constant psychological pressure, reports came in hourly of soldiers refusing to leave their ships, others abandoning their posts to hide in dark corners, and some even taking their own lives rather than face another day of being hunted. The proud Kethtar Empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for millennia, was being systematically destroyed by creatures they had dismissed as primitive prey. Vextar's military advisors could no longer provide coherent battle plans. Every strategy they attempted was countered by Earth's enhanced predators before it could be implemented. That's when the communication arrived from Earth's government. The message was simple and direct, delivered by a human negotiator named Yoon. Hyejin. Her voice was calm and professional, but there was an underlying strength that made Vextar's skin crawl. She spoke like someone who held all the winning cards and knew it. "Admiral Vextar," she began, "we offer you one final opportunity to end this conflict with honor. Withdraw your forces immediately from Earth's solar system and agree to a mutual, non-aggression pact. Your species will be allowed to leave unharmed, and we will consider this unfortunate misunderstanding closed." Vextar snarled at the screen. The idea of negotiating with prey was an insult to everything the Kethtar represented. These humans might have surprised him with their defensive capabilities, but they were still just mammals on a single planet. His empire controlled dozens of star systems and commanded millions of warriors. "And if we refuse," he growled into the communication device. Hyejin's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes that made Vextar uncomfortable. "Then we will be forced to deploy the Apex project. I hope for your sake that won't be necessary." Before Vextar could respond, the communication ended. He dismissed the humans' threats as desperate bluffing. What could these primitives possibly have that was worse than what they had already unleashed? He had faced their enhanced animals and survived. His flagship was protected by the strongest shields in the galaxy and surrounded by his most loyal guards. That night, Vextar retired to his private quarters aboard the Blood Talon, confident that tomorrow he would devise a new strategy to crush these troublesome humans. He sealed the armored doors behind him and activated every security system the ship possessed. Nothing could possibly penetrate his defenses. When he awoke the next morning, Vextar found something that made his blood freeze in his veins. On his personal desk, arranged with deliberate care, were items that should have been impossible to obtain. His own ceremonial dagger, taken from a locked safe that required his genetic signature to open. A datapad containing his most secret military plans. A photograph of his family back on the Kethtar homeworld. But most terrifying of all was the simple note, written in perfect Kethtar script. "We could have killed you while you slept. Consider this our final warning." Vextar's hands shook as he activated every alarm on the ship. Security footage showed nothing. Sensor logs detected no intrusions. Whatever had entered his quarters had done so without leaving any trace of its presence. For the first time in his life, the galaxy's greatest predator understood what it felt like to be prey. The retreat of the Kethtar fleet from Earth's solar system marked the end of an era that had lasted thousands of years. Admiral Vextar's massive invasion force once the terror of the galaxy, limped away from the small blue planet in complete defeat. The surviving warriors huddled in their ships, many of them still traumatized by experiences that had shattered their understanding of what it meant to be a predator. News of the impossible defeat spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communication networks could carry it. On countless worlds, species that had lived in fear of Kethtar raids suddenly found themselves filled with hope. The galaxy's most feared predators had been beaten by a species that had barely begun to explore space. If humans could defeat the Kethtar, perhaps the Age of Terror was finally coming to an end. Other aggressive civilizations that had been planning their own expansion campaigns suddenly found reasons to postpone their invasions. The Zephyrian Empire, known for enslaving entire planets, quietly cancelled their raids on 3 nearby systems. The Void Hunters, nomadic pirates who had terrorized trade routes for centuries, began avoiding any sector where human ships might be operating. Word had spread that Earth's inhabitants were not to be underestimated. Meanwhile, Earth's communication networks were flooded with messages from species across the galaxy. These were not threats or demands, but cautious diplomatic overtures from civilizations that had suffered under Kethtar oppression for generations. The gentle folk of Kepler 442b, whose peaceful nature had made them perfect victims, sent grateful messages thanking humanity for ending their nightmare. The mining collective of the asteroid belt offered trade agreements and shared technology in exchange for protection. President Lee Ji-won found herself dealing with a completely transformed political landscape. Earth had gone from being an unknown world on the galaxy's edge to becoming the center of a new power structure that nobody had anticipated. Diplomatic missions arrived daily, bringing gifts and proposals from species eager to align themselves with the planet that had achieved the impossible. Admiral Vextar, his pride shattered, but his intelligence intact, made a decision that surprised even his own advisors. Rather than plotting revenge or trying to rebuild his forces, he formally acknowledged humanity as the new apex species in their region of space. In a galaxy-wide broadcast that shocked every civilization, the defeated Kethtar leader declared that humans had earned their respect through superior hunting tactics and strategic thinking. The psychological impact of this admission was enormous. If the Kethtar themselves acknowledged human dominance, who could argue otherwise? Species that had never heard of Earth suddenly began studying human culture and military tactics. Universities across the galaxy started offering courses on Earth-style warfare and human psychological operations. Back on Earth, the enhanced creatures that had saved humanity began returning to their peaceful lives. The great white sharks patrolled the oceans with quiet satisfaction. The enhanced wolves returned to their forest territories, their titanium teeth gleaming in the sunlight. The ravens perched on city buildings, watching the skies with eyes that missed nothing. They had done their duty, and now they could rest. But their legend lived on in every corner of the galaxy. Predator species whispered stories of Earth's beasts to their young, warning them never to underestimate the small blue planet. The galaxy had learned a fundamental truth that would reshape interstellar politics forever. The smartest predator rules the pack, not the biggest one.